Nearly every modern application needs email at some point. Whether you're signing your users up for a newsletter or sending them ticket confirmation, Resend helps you send with confidence. In this video, I'll cover a basic walkthrough of how to send emails from a .NET application using the official .NET SDK for Resend. In the terminal, let's run .NET new console to initialize a new console app. Before opening it up, we should also add the resend package using .NET add package resend, since we'll need it later. You can see that we now have a basic .NET console app with a program.cs and a few other setup files. We're going to need a resend API key in order to send emails, so let's get that set up first. Let's go to the resend dashboard and click API keys, then create API key. Name it something descriptive, so let's use resend.net example, and we can scope it to sending access. We can allow it to send from any domain. Once we create the API key, we can copy it and set it as an environment variable in our terminal using export resend API token and pasting our key. Now that we've set that up, let's go back to program.cs and delete all of its contents. Let's start by getting the environment variable using environment.getEnvironmentVariable, referencing the resend API token that we just set. If the API token is null, let's log an error and exit early. Otherwise, let's create a resend client. To do that, we need to add a using directive for the resend package and then use resendClient.create. This takes an argument called resendClientOptions, which we'll declare before passing in, setting the API token property to our API token variable that we set earlier. Now that we have our client, let's define the email that we want to send. For our first email, let's copy the example code from the docs as a starting point. Let's use a basic subject and HTML body saying that the email sent. Let's wrap this in a try-catch block because it's possible that this call will fail. When the email does successfully send, let's log the email ID that we get back from resend. Otherwise, we'll catch the exception and log it. Let's try running the code now using .NET Run. Now, since we sent to a testing email address that's owned by resend, we can't actually view it in our own inbox. But we can see the returned ID and see that it was sent in our resend dashboard. When we click on the sent email, we can see that it was successfully delivered. We can also preview the message in rendered or raw HTML or plain text, which we didn't set for this email. By clicking on the Insights tab, we can see deliverability insights and custom advice for improving this email. Now, it's not very useful if we can only send to and from resend's testing accounts. But if we update the from email address and run the app again, we get an error. We've thrown an exception because we haven't verified our domain yet. To set one up, navigate to the Domains tab of the resend dashboard. Let's click Add Domain, and you'll see on this callout that Resend typically recommends using subdomains in order to protect your sender reputation. Now, we don't have to actually have any content at this domain. All we need to do is tell email clients where these emails are coming from. I'll use marketing.netcli.com since I own .netcli.com. You should use a domain that you own. Now let's select a region from the dropdown. You should choose the region that's closest to your users. Since I plan on sending emails to users in the US, I'll leave it set to North Virginia. Then let's click Add Domain. Next, we need to set up our DNS records with our domain provider. Depending on which one you're using, you may need to manually set them up, following the instructions here. My domain is on Cloudflare though, and Resend has a one-click integration to make DNS setup easy. I'll click Sign into Cloudflare, and it'll load my dashboard, show me the records it wants to create, and when I authorize it, it adds all the records for me. This sends me back to the Resend dashboard, which will then start looking for those DNS records. It can take a few minutes to a few hours to propagate. We're adding a domain in Resend because we need to authorize Resend to send emails on our behalf. This protects our reputation because email inbox providers will verify those records to ensure that whatever emails they're receiving actually come from us. Let's go back to the code and change our from value to hi@marketing.netcli.com using our subdomain. Now that it's been verified, I can send to whoever I want. So let's change the to value to .netcli@gmail.com. And just to make sure we see a difference, let's change the subject to hello again from .NET and Resend. Now we can run .NET Run again, and this time it will succeed. We can jump back to the dashboard to see that the email was sent. But since I sent to an email address that I actually own, wouldn't it be better to see it in the inbox? Now, if I try to reply to this email, you can see that it'll go right back to that same email address that we sent from. Right now, though, we don't have an inbox set up to receive mail at that location. So let's add a reply to field, and I'm just going to put .netcli@gmail.com there, since I can receive email there. Let's run this app one more time and check our inbox again. Here's the new email, and this time if I click reply, it'll send to .netcli@gmail.com instead of the sending subdomain. This is a basic console application, but we have other examples in the resend.net SDK. If you're interested in more detailed videos on using resend with .NET, let us know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Happy sending!